This episode is brought to you by 20th Century Studios' The Amateur. When his wife is murdered, Charlie Heller, the CIA's most brilliant computer analyst, must trek across the globe and use his only weapon, his intelligence, to hunt down her killers and enact revenge. Starring Academy Award winner Rami Malek and Academy Award nominee Lawrence Fishburne. The Amateur. Rated PG-13. Only in theaters April 11th.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Today at T-Mobile, I'm joined by a special co-anchor.
What up, everybody? It's your boy, Big Snoop Deal Double G.
Snoop, where can people go to find great deals?
Head to T-Mobile.com and get 4 iPhone 16s with Apple Intelligence on us, plus 4 lines for $25.
That's quite a deal, Snoop. And when you switch to T-Mobile, you can save versus the other big guys' comparable plans plus streaming.
Respect. And we up out of here.
See how you can save on wireless and streaming versus the other big guys at T-Mobile.com/switch. Apple Intelligence requires iOS 18.1 or later.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
Hey there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode number 101 of DBR Bites. Yes, this is one of our smaller episodes. I say smaller in air quotes because normally Jason and I like to talk a little bit more about these teams that we are previewing. But of course, we are on to the Sweet 16. We got the Arizona Wildcats coming, or at least coming to Newark. We will be joining them in Newark. Hopefully, we'll be Cameron North. But let's preview that game. I am Donald Wine. I'm your host for this episode. I have Jason Evans with me. Jason, I'm going to bring you in, obviously. Hope, hello. Tell me how we're doing.
Yeah, we'll get to more about how I'm doing in a second. But Donald, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. What time do you think you're going to get to sleep on Thursday night? The Duke game is scheduled to tip. I believe it was
9:39.
9:39. First of all, I don't believe that will be the tip time. I think it'll probably end up being later. This game probably won't end as a result till around midnight. What time do you think you were going to fall asleep on Thursday night?
I think the better question, Jason, is will I sleep on Thursday night? The answer is TBD, man. TBD. It will be very late. I mean, as you know, it usually takes a couple hours for me to get to sleep anyway. So this game ending around midnight-ish, whatever high or low will be on is gonna take me to 1 o'clock anyway. So we're probably thinking 2:30, 3. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm worried that especially. Well, I guess win or lose, you get so wound up in these games, especially a tournament game against a team like Arizona that we're going to talk about it, but there's a lot of baggage when Duke plays Arizona in recent years.
Yes.
So
it's a natural high or low, right? The caffeine is not going to be necessary on Thursday night.
It's Jason, a natural adrenaline. It's a natural adrenaline for sure.
Adrenaline. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. But Jason, of course, I was asking how you're doing, but there's obviously some news that you want to share with the rest of the with the family that we have here. So I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah. By the way, folks, if you don't want to hear a grown man blubber and cry, fast forward about 5 minutes or so.
No,
And
listen to this. This is important. It's
thank you.
important.
How I'm doing? I'm doing really, really shitty, man. Because yesterday afternoon, um, I had to put down Cameron, my dog, who's shown up on the DBR podcast on many an occasion with his barks in the background. I think I mentioned on this podcast about a year ago, a little more than a year ago in January, that we got a cancer diagnosis on Cameron, and we were just hoping for the best. For obvious reasons, with a dog that was 14 years old, we were not going to put him through chemo. He wouldn't understand that. I completely respect and understand other people who make a different decision, but I think putting a pet through chemo is just really difficult when they're this age. So we thought, okay, cancer, this is it, 6 months. It's been 14 months. Cameron basically said, 6 months, fuck that. And he said, I'm going to make it through another basketball season. And he came damn close to doing it. This is an animal that, like, he loved paw rubs. When I'd be sitting, he would come get underneath my legs so that I could scratch his back and his butt. We noticed a few weeks ago that he sort of stopped doing those things. My wife would rub his paws like every day. He just wasn't interested in her rubbing his paws anymore. He didn't want me to sort of scratch his back the way I used to. And I mean, this is a dog that, even though he didn't love being touched, that wasn't like his big thing. You could tell that something was going on. His gait was kind of messed up. He would sort of trip over his own feet at times. He couldn't really sit anymore. He would hunch back on his hind legs, but it was clear that sitting hurt him. And so we made the decision about a week ago that we were only keeping him around for us, not because he wanted to still be here. We were letting our fear of missing him, trump the pain that he was clearly going through, and we didn't want to do that any longer. So on Friday, we decided that the right thing to do would be to usher him on his way and say goodbye. And we scheduled it for Monday. Of course, the moment we decided that, Cameron, same way he said "fuck you" to cancer, was like, "Hey, fuck you," and he perked up. And we had a great weekend. We took a great walk on Saturday. We went there's a pathway that leads to the woods near our house by the Chattahoochee River. I looked around. There weren't other dogs or other people around on the pathway through the woods. I took him off his leash, and he got to stop and sniff every damn thing he wanted to. It took us more than an hour to do like a mile-long hike because he was having such a good time. And then on Sunday, my son came over. My oldest son, Drew, came over with his dog, and Cameron perked up again, and they played together, and they each sat next to each other while not Drew, I'm talking about the other dog. They sat next to each other and they chowed down on a pair of marrow bones that we had for them. And I was like, I spoke to the vet and I was like, this dog's doing great now. Maybe I'm rushing things. And the vet said to me, he's like, let me guess, you've been feeding him like nothing but treats and stuff since you made the decision. I was like, yeah, we're giving him all his favorite foods. And he goes, your dog's on a sugar rush. Everything around him, you're paying maximum attention to him. Everything around him is exciting. He's getting these great foods. He goes, who wouldn't perk up in a situation like that? And the decision that I made, it was really my decision. I was like, why am I going to wait for him to have bad days? Why am I waiting? Because I know what's coming. I know that waiting is like the difference in a couple more weeks. Why am I going to wait for him to have 2 or 3 or 4 bad days in a row? Let's go out after a couple good days. So on Monday, basically Sunday and Monday, in Cameron's last 24 hours, he ate 5 hamburgers. He licked his way through 4 marrow bones, and he ate almost an entire bag full of his favorite treats, dentist sticks. And last night around 6 p.m., Monday night around 6 p.m., we petted him and held him as we fed him a hamburger, and he went to sleep. It was peaceful. It was humane. And I've never cried that much in my life. I was heaving. I was unable to form words. It hurts because he loved unconditionally. If you want to know what Cameron wanted out of a day, he just wanted to be close to Jason. My sons complained years ago that we'd gotten the dog for them, but somehow the dog belonged to daddy. Look, there are plenty of you on this pod who have heard Cameron alerting all of us that there was a delivery, a package at the front door, or that the grass was being cut, or that another dog was walking by on the street. You guys all knew when that happened because Cameron made plenty of noise. Um, a few years ago, I started recording from my basement office as opposed to the living room in the house, partially because I didn't want Cameron's howls to constantly be interrupting our podcasts. But over the past year, something kind of strange happened. And Cameron had sort of lost some of his hearing. He wasn't as interested in being on patrol by the front door. And he got in a habit of following me downstairs to the basement when I would record podcasts. And he would just lay there at my feet as I would bellow about how great Cooper Flagg had been in the latest game. And he often would fall asleep, and sometimes he'd even snore a little bit. And I was always worried that the snoring was going to make it onto the podcast. I had moved one of his beds to the office, and that's where he was pretty much every time I recorded for the past year. Now, this is a dog. He did not like taking the stairs anymore, but he would take that one flight down to the basement to come with me and rest while I recorded. And so I look around here now, and he's not here, and he won't be here ever again. And I'm a mess. I'm a mess because of it. I don't know. I don't have much more to say. I'll try and compose myself and talk about Arizona in a second, Donald. So many of you have been through this, and look, almost everyone listening to this probably has been through this at some point. They are part of our family. They love us to death. We love them to death. And there's nothing about loss that isn't hard. And a pet is almost harder because a pet doesn't do anything bad.
I mean, they do some bad, right? They eat the whole jar of peanut butter, but in all essence, it's
no, but it's not
always
intentional.
Fun. It's not intentional.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're like, I wish I had one more jar of peanut butter for him to destroy, right? First of all, Jason, condolences to you, to the family. I got to meet, I had to go back to look at this. It was episode 569 where I came to your house and finally met Cameron, as opposed to him just kind of interrupting our conversations on this pod over the years, which were always fun and usually well timed. If you remember, we'd always have a great point. He'd be like, "Roo, roo." You're like, oh, see, Cameron agrees. So I would definitely miss that. But in general, humans don't deserve dogs. Dogs are placed here to be that guardian angel that they know that we need. And at the end, and sometimes we don't recognize that we truly, truly need. And Cameron was the guardian angel for you, for your family. And I really lament the fact that we will not hear his barking on here anymore. Great. I mean, funny thing is, Jason, when he came over to visit, you remember this, he started barking. And then I said, Cameron. And he kind of recognized the voice because it was always coming through a microphone in your office. And he kind of stopped and was like, oh, I think I know this guy. Again, like, we don't deserve dogs, but somehow they're placed here to give us the peace and the comfort and the happiness that we need.
By the way, one other note about this, I posted a few pictures of Cameron to my Twitter feed at Jason Duke Evans, including a shot I took of him wearing a Duke baseball cap. He did not enjoy wearing that cap. It did not stay on for long, but it was on long enough for me to take a picture of it. So go check that out.
And Jason, there's only one thing left to do at times like this. In honor of Cameron, we got to win the whole fucking thing.
Damn straight, baby. Yes.
To do that, in that note, and keeping him in our hearts, we preview our Sweet 16 matchup against the Arizona Wildcats. We play them on Thursday night, as Jason mentioned, very, very late game. So, stay tuned to CBS for the conclusion. The first game will be 30 minutes after that we hit the air, probably somewhere between 9:45 and 10 o'clock. But we play this team, and again, we saw them on November 22nd. As we get into who they've played, I'm not going to talk about who they played in the first 3 games of the season because we already talked about that 3 months ago. What I will talk about is what they have done since we faced them in Tucson back on November 22nd. Again, that was a 69-55 win for Duke. And at the time, we remember we had just we were about to play Kansas. We had just come off the loss to Kentucky, and we thought this, a win on the road in that tough situation after they came to Cameron the year before and beat us was a big thing. Since then, Arizona has had some ups and downs. They are 22-10 since they played us. They're 24-12 overall. They have top 50 wins in KenPom, twice over Baylor, twice over Texas Tech, Iowa State, Kansas, and Oregon. Very, very good teams. They even have a slew of top 100 wins against a bunch of teams, especially teams in the Big 12. Their losses, their worst loss, Jason, is to Kansas State, who is 65th in KenPom. So every win that they have played basically over the last 2 months has been a really good team, and they have beaten all these teams, and even some that they've lost to.
By the way, Kansas State, 65th ranked in KenPom. That was a road game. That's a quad one game still. I mean, like,
Right.
there's no
Right.
bad losses on this resume, not a single one.
Yeah, yeah. I think they only have technically one quad two
Actually,
loss.
yeah, West Virginia on a neutral
West
floor
Virginia
was
at home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think they're 51st in KenPom. So again, a very, very good squad.
If you think losing to West Virginia is a bad loss, I don't know what to tell you. It's not
Right.
a bad loss.
Not a bad loss at all. Again, after they played us, they immediately lost 3 of 5 after that, but then they went on a run from about December 18th to February 8th where they won 13 of 14. They then came back and they had a really tough stretch to end the regular season. They lost 5 out of 8 of those games, but again, as we mentioned, all those teams were really, really good. They then went to the Big 12 tournament final, where they lost to Houston in a tough match. Houston they lost to twice, and both of them were really, really tough games where they were, kind of grinded out, and Houston did not win those games easily. In the NCAA tournament, they have beaten Akron, who was the 13th seed, and then they beat 5 seed Oregon to get to this point. Jason, as I turn to you to talk about what they do in offense and defense, they are 13th in KenPom. They are 12th in the net. The metrics tell you that this team is really, really solid. We've obviously seen that before, but there is nothing that has changed between the time we saw them in November and now, other than they've probably gotten better in a couple of different areas.
Yeah, they definitely have. When we played them on November 22nd, they were Ken Pomeroy's number 24 team. Now it's early in the season. We know there's preseason bias built in there and stuff, but they were 24. They've risen since then to number 13, and they're playing even better than that today. Over the past couple weeks, you mentioned they did really well in the Big 12 tournament. They played nicely in the NCAA tournament. Over the past couple weeks, since the conference tournaments got underway, since March 10th, basically, Arizona's played like the number 8 team in the country. Number 8. Duke, by the way, has been number 5 during that stretch, so not that big a difference. It's worth noting that, we played 3 ACC games with Cooper Flag. Well, I mean, without Cooper Flag, so, it wasn't a full-strength Duke, but still, for Arizona to be playing like the number 8 team in the country over the past few weeks, they've been playing better recently than Alabama or BYU, who are the other 2 teams on the other side of this region from us. Arizona's really, really good. In fact, I was talking to a good friend of mine, a guy named Jonathan Gans, who's a very smart observer of Duke basketball. And Jonathan was very clear. He's like, I'm more afraid of Arizona than I am Alabama or BYU. He said, this is the game. They are better on offense than they are on defense. They have the 13th best offense in the country, does Arizona. And much like Baylor, this is a really, really good offensive rebounding team. 13th best in the country at 13th at offensive rebounds. Duke's got to be careful about it. Got to be careful about that. They're 76th best in defensive rebounds, so the offensive rebounds is more of a concern against Arizona. They grab more than 36% of their missed shots. Man, that's a problem. If Arizona's getting close to 40% of their missed shots against Duke, we're going to have to shoot lights out. Otherwise, we will be in real trouble.
Again, we talked about it with Jordan Brenner. We talked about it after the game the other day. We have tendencies where teams get a lot of offensive rebounds against us, and you don't want that shot disparity to be like it was against Baylor, where they're shooting 23 more shots. That is not a sustainable thing that you want to have. More aligned with some of the games we had where teams were having maybe 4 or 5 offensive rebounds. We were controlling the paint. We were dominating the boards on both ends. And if we're winning that battle, just like we did in Arizona, in Tucson, we won that battle, or at least played them very even. And because of that strength of theirs was neutralized, and we were able to beat them in other areas.
In terms of other stuff about their offense, very good team at getting into the lane and getting good shots in the lane. They hit over 55% of their 2-point field goals. That's a big number. 55% on twos is a really good number. They are just an average 3-point shooting team, like right at 33.3%. And they don't take a ton of threes. This is a team that mostly relies on getting 2-point shots, not 3-point shots. Not to say they can't score from there. And we're going to talk about Caleb Love in a minute. Caleb Love is the guy who attempts to score from 3 for them. But for the most part, what you worry about with Arizona is them putting the ball on the floor, getting into the lane, making good passes to open teammates who are cutting and stuff like that. They have a really nice assist percentage. They assist on more than 56% of their baskets. This is just a very efficient offensive team in Arizona. Two more things I want to note about their offense. One is they're a very, very good free throw shooting team. They hit close to 78% of their free throws. That's a very big number. And it's really hard to block their shots. I mean, really hard to block their shots. 10th best in the country at sort of, offensive block rate, meaning how often the defense blocks you. 10th best. Now, Duke has, Cooper Flag, Man, Big Pat. Duke blocks a lot of shots usually. We're very intimidating around the rim. Arizona is one of those teams who probably won't be intimidated by Duke around the rim. And that could be a big story in this game. If Duke is able to, force Arizona into tougher twos and not making as many of them, that could be huge for the Blue Devils. On defense for Arizona, they are 28th best in the country. They aren't a team that turns teams over very much. Their steal percentage is decent, but they're one of the worst teams in the country at non-steal turnovers. Things like forcing teams to throw it out of bounds, forcing travels, walking violations, shot clocks, things like that. Arizona does not do much of that at all. They are just average at defending the three-point line. I mentioned they hit about 33%. They allow opponents to hit about 33% of their three-point shots. They're much better, though, at defending closer in shots. Teams hit only about 47% of their two-point field goals. That is sort of the thing that Arizona's defense is best at. They're also pretty good at not fouling you and sending you to the free throw line. Donald, anything else you saw in the analytics, or can I move to the players?
No, let's move to the players because, again, we're obviously going to start with somebody that we've been playing for the last 114 years in Caleb Love.
Caleb Love, the king of he can blow hot and he can blow cold. He can win you games all by himself, and he can lose you games all by himself. On the season, Caleb Love is averaging almost 17 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game. It all starts with him. The ball will be in Caleb Love's hands more than anyone else for Arizona. He is far and away, like it's not even close, far and away the most likely guy to take a three-pointer for the Arizona Wildcats. Get this number. On the season, Caleb Love has attempted 277 three-point field goal attempts. I mean, that's like more than 8 per game. The second most of anyone on Arizona is a guy named Anthony Del Orso, who's taken 117. Caleb Love has taken 160 more three-point field goal attempts than anyone else on his team. That's outrageous. That's
200,
crazy.
Like shooting 200 threes is ridiculous, right? Like what was it? I think JJ shot like what 202 or I'm sorry 203 for his career or something like that. Like he made those. Like 200 shots in a season is a lot. 203 pointers in a season is astronomical.
Well, Tyrese Proctor leads Duke with 207. Mm-hmm. Con Knipple has 196. Again, Caleb Love's 200. He's 70 ahead of Tyrese Proctor in terms of three-pointers attempted. Now, he doesn't hit a ton of them. He's only hitting about 33% of his threes in the season. I mean, like I mentioned, Arizona hits 33%. It's not a surprise that the guy who takes the lion's share also hits right around 33%. That's pretty much what he's been his entire career. I mean, sometimes he's a little lower, maybe a tad bit higher than that, but pretty much you can count on Caleb Love to hit about a third of his threes. That said, he's been hot lately. In his past 4 games, Caleb Love has hit 14 out of 28 three-pointers. Donald, can you do that math? That's 50%, 14 out of 28. So, we've been talking about how hot Tyrese Proctor is. Caleb Love isn't quite as hot, but he's pretty close. He's been playing Caleb Love about 38 to 40 minutes a game. I don't think he's going to come out at all against Duke. He is 6'4", has a fairly solid frame, and he's not going to get pushed around by Duke's bigger guards. Duke, usually is able to have a big height advantage on the teams that they play against, especially in the guard ranks. That's not real, we're bigger than Arizona, but not by a lot. And the Arizona guys are pretty physical and pretty athletic. So I don't think that Duke's not going to have the usual advantage we do in that arena.
And if you remember when we played them in Tucson, one of the major storylines after that game was the fact that Caleb Love was 1 for 9 from three and had 3 turnovers. So like we were able to really, allow him to shoot his team out of the game, and by just not being there and also being very physical, being in his face on 3-point attempts. And I'm dare to say our defense has gotten way better as the season has gone along. We mentioned some of the things that have changed or have changed with some of the personnel or what they do. But of course, Isaiah Evans and Patrick Ngongba did not play in that game, and now they're fully involved in the rotation for Duke. So a lot of things can be different, and I wonder, will it still be Sion James? Will it still be Tyrese Proctor put on Caleb Love? Because Tyrese Proctor and Caleb Love know each other like the back of their hand at this point.
Yeah,
but we're able to throw some different looks at them no matter who's on the floor.
Yeah, I know Duke fans have some PTSD from Caleb Love having big games against us, but it's worth noting the dude has also struggled at times, particularly, like you say, when he's been guarded by Tyrese Proctor. On November 22nd, when we played them, he only had 8 points on 3 of 13 shooting. Last year, when we played them, he just was 3 of 10 from the field. The year before, when he was still at UNC, he had one game where he was 3 of 12 and another game where he was 5 of 15. Those are the times that Tyrese Proctor has guarded him. And he has never come close to even hitting 50% of his shots against Tyrese Proctor. When he's bad, Arizona tends to lose. Let's not forget how they went out in the NCAA tournament last year. They were playing Clemson, and Caleb Love went 0 of 9 from 3-point range in a game that Arizona lost. All right, moving on from Caleb Love, because there are plenty of other guys that we need to discuss. His backcourt mate is a guy named Jaden Bradley. He's their smallest guy in their starting lineup. He's 6'3". But like I said, he's fairly solid. He's got good length for a guy who's 6'3". Like Caleb Love, Bradley's going to play like 38 to 40 minutes in this game. He likes to put the ball on the floor, find space for a pull-up jumper. That's sort of his game. He's a very smooth. When I watch highlights of Jaden Bradley, I'm just like, everything looks effortless. He's just one of those guys where you're like, that didn't look that hard. How did he do that so easily? He does a nice job of getting to the free throw line, does Jaden Bradley. He had 18 points against us when we played them in November. He was kind of their most potent weapon last time we played them. We need to clean that up. Now, he is fairly similar, Jaden Bradley is, to their sixth man, KJ Lewis. KJ is 6'4", plays a little bit bigger because he has springs in his legs, like Jaden Bradley. He puts the ball on the floor and gets in the lane. He elevates really well, KJ Lewis does, on his pull-up jumper. He is definitely adept at athletic finishes in the lane. Donald, did you see the technical foul that KJ Lewis had against Oregon?
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, if you have not seen this, one of the most outrageous technicals I've ever seen. So KJ Lewis cuts backdoor against Oregon and has a dunk. And he goes up, and as he dunks it, the ball rattles out. And KJ Lewis is hanging on the rim. As he's hanging on the rim there from the dunk, he grabs the ball that is missed with one of his hands and dunks it through while hanging on the rim. You're not allowed to do that. That's a technical, but it's one of the most outrageous plays. Like the announcer said, they're like, if you could do that in a slam dunk contest, you'd win right away. That's how athletic KJ Lewis is.
Yeah, it's funny too because I think did it bounce off somebody when it rolled back out. It was the way the ball rolled out was really weird. It wasn't like that he missed it and he was able to grab it again. It went like 3/4 of the way down, popped back up, and he was like, no. I meant for you to go there. And he kind of grabbed it, and put the ball back in. It was very funny at the time, but then you get a technical and everyone's kind of like, that's one of those, oh, that is literally how it's written. But come on, man, just like call it offensive goaltending, give the other team the ball, but you don't have to make it a technical.
All right, so moving from the guards to the big men, they were probably going to start 6'8", 250 Toby Awaka at center. He's sort of a poor man's Norchad Omier, if you want to have post-traumatic stress from the Baylor game. He is a bit more athletic than Omier, but not quite as skilled around the basket. He's not going to finish the same way Norchad does. But get ready for some numbers here, Donald. Toby Awaka has the 5th highest offensive rebounding rate in the country. My goodness. He clears out space and grabs that thing and puts it back in the basket. He also has the 15th best defensive rebounding rate in the country. Like the dude averages only about 20 minutes per game, less than 20 minutes per game, and grabs 8 rebounds per game. Wow. I am not looking forward to playing against Toby Owaka. So Owaka kind of splits time at center with their biggest player, 7-footer Henry Visar. Now, earlier in the year, they had a 7-2 guy, Montavis Krivas, but he's been hurt. When we played them, he was playing for them, but he got injured after that game, and he hasn't played for several months now. It's a pity. The guy's an incredibly talented player who's, the NBA is looking out for, but he just can't seem to get healthy. But the guy they've got is Henry Visar. And he is a more dangerous offensive player in the post than Owaka is, but he's not nearly as good a rebounder. That's not a shock. But Visar will step outside and try to hit a three every now and then. He's going to be a very interesting sort of matchup with man-man. I think that they will find themselves guarding each other a pretty fair bit. I also want you to keep an eye out. They have a 6'8" forward, Carter Bryant. He was like a top 30 recruit, almost a 5-star recruit coming in. He's one of the only freshmen who plays for them. I feel like Carter Bryant's been playing a lot better lately. He's a really good athlete. He's been blocking shots a good bit lately. Assuming they're able to keep him around, I think Carter Bryant's a guy who could really blossom into a special player in the next year or two. But you're going to see him. He's playing more and more for Arizona lately. And Carter Bryant's a guy who could impact this game in an unexpected kind of way if you're looking for a guy deep on the bench. Arizona's only going to play 8 players. They're just not a team that tends to go more than 8 deep. The rest of the guys on their bench, it's very unlikely they're going to play. But the way they divvy up the minutes, as I mentioned, Caleb Love and Jaden Bradley are going to play a ton. Everyone else plays like 20 minutes. Everyone else just basically splits time. So they don't tend to get exhausted. They don't tend to get in foul trouble. Aside from, Love and Bradley, who are two of the guys who foul like the least in the like. These are guys that, I'm not saying their defense is bad, but they're not exactly, they're not playing defense in a way that picks up fouls. Let me just put it that way about Love and Bradley. But the rest of these guys, they don't even worry about picking up fouls because they know that there's another guy who can replace them in the lineup. That's just sort of the way it works around Arizona. Ken Pomeroy projects that Duke will win this game 81-73. The line opened, Donald, at Duke by 8.5, right on that 81-73 kind of number. The line has since moved to Duke by about 9.5. I think it may get as much to 10 by press time because the public is really high on this Duke team. I noticed that ESPN, Jeff Borzello and Joe Lunardi and whoever else it is who is doing like previews of the games, all of them picked Duke to win by between like 7 and 15 points. We'll see what happens. All the metrics, everything says that Duke's the better team, but not by a lot. This is sort of one of the closest projected games that Duke has had in a long, long time on, Ken Pom and the other advanced metrics. And like I said at the start, I'm probably more worried about this than I am about whoever comes out of the other side of the Eastern Regional.
It's going to be a tough matchup. Like you mentioned, some of these guys and how the rotations have changed. Some of these guys have gotten a lot better as the year has moved along and really can excel in different ways. It's going to be tough to beat them. Let's pause right here. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll talk about some of the things we need to watch in this game, but also there's a couple of postseason awards you need to be on the lookout for. So stick with us.
All right, Duke fans, when it comes to college basketball and March Mania, one thing is for sure, nothing is for sure. Upsets, buzzer beaters, Cinderella's advancing, top seeds going home early, we hope not. It's all gonna happen. Bet the unexpected every upset every day with DraftKings Sportsbook.
That's right, Jason. With live betting, exclusive content, promos, and parlays, DraftKings is the ultimate college basketball destination for March. And if it's your first time using it, we got something special for you. $5 for $200 in bonus bets instantly. It is a great deal for March.
Bet the unexpected with the DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code DUKEBB. That code again, DUKEBB, for new customers to get a $200 bonus when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
Hear that? It's SpringFest savings calling your name. Only at Lowe's. Right now, get a free Select Ego 56-volt battery when you buy a Select Ego trimmer, blower, or mower. Plus, get your choice of any 2 bags of Miracle Grow organic soil mix for only $16. Shop these can't-miss deals in-store or online today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Valid through 4/2. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Excludes Hawaii.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
All right, we are back. We are finishing up our preview of the game on Thursday night against the Arizona Wildcats. And we shift to some of the things that I think we need to watch. And Jason, you mentioned throughout your talk about the offense and defense and the players, this one word, rebounding. The one thing that we were able to do last time was kind of neutralize that. And we were able to kind of win that battle by making it even. And we need to do that again. The way that we rebounded defensively against Baylor cannot reoccur and cannot pop up again, because that's going to be a recipe for Arizona really being able to stay in the game. And as we know, the longer a team like that stays into the game, the more likely the more opportunities they have to try and beat you. And so rebounding is going to be really, really key in that. The second thing, and I know we talked about him for about 5 minutes, but don't make Caleb Love the center of attention. This is going to be a storyline built up, Caleb Love versus Duke, and the many times that they're not going to talk about the times that, Jason, that he wasn't good. They're going to talk about those times that he was the Duke killer. And even that that post-game interview that he did where they kind of said, hey, what does it take for you and your guys to beat Duke? And he kind of paused as if he wanted to say something and just kind of said, we'll be ready. This guy really obviously has it out for Duke. He does not like us. He wants to beat us every single time. And in certain occasions, he has been able to do that. But the idea is when we had those games like we did in November, where he's 1 of 9 from 3 and he's having a paltry 8 points, he wasn't the center of attention. And because of that, Arizona had to figure out how to create a Duke killer when their Duke killer was not really involved in the game. So let's neutralize him. And if we're able to do that, then we're not, we kind of render him listless. And that gives Arizona a little bit more stress in trying to figure out how to claw through and beat us. The last thing that I have, Jason, knuckle down on defense. I think this is one where, especially in the interior, if we're able to make sure that we are not being moved out of the paint, if we control this paint, whether it's through rebounding, whether it's through our defense, whether it's through altering shots, that is going to be a real key about this game, because if we're able to do that, like you said, they are very streaky when it comes to hitting threes. Caleb Love is one of those guys who's going to shoot a ton of them, right? But all the other guys are going to take their shots where they can, and they are kind of streaky as a team when it comes to hitting threes. If, again, we put more pressure on them to have to make those kind of threes, then we're giving them more stress, we're giving them more pressure, and I think we thrive through that. We can knuckle down on defense. We're going to go on a patented Duke run, and we're going to have a chance to win this thing and move on to Elite Eight. Anything else, Jason, before we get moving, at least on the Arizona preview?
All right, I'm not going to say anything to give people's hopes up. I'm not going to say I don't have any sources on this, but I have heard through the grapevine, not directly to me, but I've heard through the grapevine, it is possible that Malik Brown is going to try to practice today or tomorrow. It's impossible to say, impossible to project until, we see Duke come running out there. I think it's probably still a little soon for Malik to make it back. But, man, as soon as I heard that little rumor, I was like, ooh, that could be a real difference maker in this game. We'll see. Again, I think Duke probably has an open practice. My bet is they have one on Thursday.
I think it's Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday, whenever it may be. We'll see if, Malik is out there for that. It's possible that John Shire would not put him out there just so we, to maintain the sort of surprise, so to speak. But it would be a very, 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 very big deal if Duke got Malik Brown back at this point in the season.
We would love that. Straight up, we would love that. I am probably a little more pessimistic in that regard, right? That he's going to be able to play, but it is great news that even how much we heard from the grapevine about him over the last couple of weeks? Nothing. So maybe some news is good news, and we'll take it in the positive, and hopefully, whether he is back on Thursday, whether he's back, after that, whether we're playing after that, I just hope that he is recovering well and that there are no setbacks. And if he makes an appearance on Thursday, I know that'll be a ginormous boost to everyone, not just the team, but everybody in our chances to win that game. All right, Jason, we're going to leave that game again Thursday night, approximately 9:39 p.m., but it'll probably be a little bit later than that. So stay tuned to CBS on Thursday night for that. We have a couple of postseason award finalists and winners that we need to talk about. The first one, Jason, I want to talk about is on the coaching side. John Shire is named as a finalist for the Naismith National Coach of the Year. He joins Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino, and Kelvin Sampson as finalists. John Shire, of course, would be the second coach at Duke to win the Naismith National Coach of the Year. I think, Jason, it's kind of funny that he did not win ACC Coach of the Year. We keep talking about this, that he did not win Coach of the Year, and the ACC Coach of the Year just happens to not be on this list. Take that as you will. But Jason, your thoughts on Shire being a finalist alongside Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino, and Calvin Sampson?
So as I wrote on a certain app, social media app that used to be called Twitter, the Big 12 Coach of the Year, Kelvin Sampson, has been nominated for National Coach of the Year. The SEC Coach of the Year, Bruce Pearl, nominated for National Coach of the Year. The Big East Coach of the Year, Rick Pitino, nominated for National Coach of the Year. And John Shire. One of these things is not like the others. I want to thank the more than 45,000 people who have seen that tweet that I put out there and have responded to it positively and agree with me that this is a embarrassment for the ACC. The national media recognized something that they could not recognize. Donald, you and I have spent plenty of cyberspace ranting about how ridiculous it is that John Shire did not win ACC Coach of the Year. I'd also like to point out that the ACC media account, the account that tweets stuff on behalf of the entire conference, tweeted out congratulations to John Shire. It was resoundingly mocked for doing so because people were like, I don't understand. Wait, your Coach of the Year isn't on this list. How is John Shire on the list? But it's a great honor for John, and I think he has a very, very real shot at winning this. I think probably Pearl and Pitino are the favorites, but I look forward to John Shire proving all that stuff bunk when he cuts down the nets in a couple weeks.
Interestingly enough, the three guys you mentioned, Pearl, Pitino, Sampson, if they won it would be the first time that their schools have had a national coach of the year. Of course, we've already had one. So we're the lone finalist. John Shire's the lone finalist.
Probably not the first time. Probably not the first time. I'm not certain about Bruce Pearl, but my bet is that Rick Pitino and Kelvin Sampson have won.
I believe they have. I believe Pitino won it in 2013. That season that didn't count. And I think he also won one with Kentucky. But and Kelvin Sampson, I'm not entirely sure on him. So that I'm not going to look that up real quick. But I do know this is a prime opportunity for John Shire to win it, and I know you and I hope he does.
Yeah. But the other thing about this is, of course, I mean, like Kelvin Sampson, Bruce Pearl, Rick Pitino. Legend. Are they all in the? I think they may all three of them be in the Hall of Fame. If not, they will.
Sampson isn't yet, he will be.
Yeah, Pitino is. I'm not sure about Bruce Pearl, but I mean, three guys on the back end of their coaching careers, three of the legends of the game, and then alongside them, some dude who's under 40 and has only been a head coach for 3 years. It shows you how impressive what John Shire has done so far.
Yeah, and it's courtesy to him, it's courtesy to his coaching staff, and it is also courtesy to the team, Jason, of which we have a National Player of the Year, at least according to one network, one outlet. Jason, tell us about Cooper Flagg and his latest award.
Yeah, the United States Basketball Writers Association, the USBWA, has given 2 awards to Cooper Flagg. They have named him the winner of the Oscar Robertson Award, which is what they call their National Player of the Year. And he's also won the Wayman Tisdale Award as the best freshman in all of college basketball. I think that you could almost rename the Wayman Tisdale Award the Cooper Flagg Award, frankly. Let's line up Wayman Tisdale's freshman year against Cooper Flagg's freshman year, see who was better. Maybe it should have been renamed the Zion Williamson Freshman of the Year Award before that. But in any event, I think it's no surprise at all that Cooper Flagg has won Freshman of the Year. He's going to win every Freshman of the Year award. It's nice for him, though, that the Basketball Writers, a respected group and an influential group, has named him as the winner of their National Player of the Year award. We still need the Naismith, the AP. Those are sort of the Wooden Award. Those are the really, really big ones, and we'll wait to see what happens with those. But it's good that Flagg has gotten this one under his belt to sort of, egg on. Although I think the voters are probably already, regardless of what it means that Cooper Flagg's getting some of the recognition he deserves.
You mentioned the USBWA. They are one of the awards that is considered part of the consensus. When they talk about national, All-Americans and Player of the Year, he made the All-American team, obviously, with them. But this is one of the consensus awards that you think about. One of the big, I think, 5. When you look at the Naismith, the Wooden, AP, I think it's USA Today, and then I'm blanking on the last one, but the writers one is also part of that. So for him to get that shows that there's going to be at least a conversation, right? Like I don't know if he's going to get all of them, but he's already gotten one of the major ones. And so I'm really happy for that, and really happy that when we look back, we can say Cooper Flagg, National Player of the Year, no matter, who's talking about him. You have to refer to him as National Player of the Year.
So apparently the awards that are considered for the consensus is Sporting News, Oscar Robertson Trophy from the Basketball Writers, AP, Naismith, Wooden, and the other one is the National Association of Basketball Coaches, the NABC.
Yes,
player.
NABC. That's correct. Yep.
I believe that Sporting News has already given it to Janai Broom. So now we have the Basketball Writers giving it to Cooper Flagg, and we await the AP, Naismith, NABC, and the Wooden Award to see sort of who the Player of the Year will be. If it comes to that's 6 awards. If it comes 4-2 for one of these guys, then I think it'll be like their co-Player of the Years. But if you can get to 5-1, people sort of say, yeah, you're the one. So we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're looking forward to it. Again, whether they give it to him or not, that man is National Player of the Year. Says so on the Oscar Robertson Trophy. So we will leave it here, Jason, on DBR Bites episode number 101. We will be back at some point after the Arizona game to recap everything and hopefully preview another game. But until then, let's go Duke. He's Jason. I'm Donald. It's the Duke Band playing us out, taking us to Newark.